Um, from Washington D.C., President Joe Biden and the Democrats had passed the eye-popping $1.9 trillion price tag, but many Republican politicians and conservative commentators had other priorities in recent days. Basically, that all the Republicans have been talking about is a passionate defense of Dr. Seuss and serious questions about the future of the Mr. Potato Head and the intense scrutiny of Meghan Markle. The conservatives' relentless focus on culture wars rather than the new president, highlighting both their strategy for regaining power in Washington and their challenge in doing so. Unlike previous Democratic leaders, Biden himself simply isn't proving to be an easy target or animating figure for the Republican base, prompting Republicans to turn to the kind of culture issues or the cultural issues that the party has had used to cast Democrats as elitist and out of touch with the average American. That's exactly what the Republicans are. They're out of touch. There's just not the antipathy to Biden like there was with Obama. He just doesn't drive the conservative outrage, said Alex Khanna, um, who's a longtime Republican operative who worked for the Republican National Committee in 2009 as they labored to undermine the then president that was running, Barack Obama. They'll never talk about Biden. It's amazing. This is what Conant said of the conservative news media. I think Foe covered Dr. Seuss more than Biden's stimulus bill in the week leading up to the vote. The challenge is continuation of the 2020 campaign. When then squatter Trump struggled to land a consistent attack on Biden, the branding of Biden as sleepy never stuck in the same way as Trump's derision of Hillary Clinton as crooked in 2016. Other Republican efforts to define Biden as a radical or to attack his mental acuity also hasn't resonated. Merchandise stands outside Trump's Klan rallies featured buttons and shirts mocking Clinton and Obama, but few of them bashed Biden. Clinton, who remains reviled on the Republican side, was featured far more prominently on stage at last month's annual conservative political action conference in Florida than the current occupant of the Oval Office. The GOP is focusing more on America's culture wars than they are on Biden, including a relatively new villain decried as cancel culture. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy had tweeted a video of himself reading from Dr. Seuss in the days after the author's publishing house announced that it was discontinuing several of Dr. Seuss's books that contained what they call racist imagery. And former Trump aide, a white supremacist named Stephen Miller, had joined others on the right in launching a Twitter defense of Buckingham Palace after Merkel, and a blockbuster interview with Oprah Winfrey alleged racist treatment by an unnamed member of the monarchy. Um, it's going to take Republicans a few weeks to realize how badly they got rolled on the COVID bill, while they wasted all their precious time and energy whining about Dr. Seuss, tweeted Amanda Carpenter, who is a former advisor to Republican Senator Ted Cruz of Texas. Biden's strategy on the culture war issues has been to largely not engage. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki danced around questions about Dr. Seuss. Biden himself has largely stayed gaffe-free, with the exception of his calling decisions by Republican governors to lift mask mandates. Neanderthal was generated a brief tempest on the right. Instead, the West Wing has focused on the relief bill, believing that Americans will reward results, not controversy. The cancel culture is a huge meme on the right, and it may work with the base, but the base is not the country at large, said David Axelrod, who was a former senior advisor to Obama. That is a sideshow right now, and the main event is the virus and how quickly we are going to be able to get back to normal. Biden, Axelrod said, has remained a difficult target for the Republicans. He does not engage, he does not personalize his disputes, and while he is pursuing a progressive platform, he does not use the conventional ideological language about it. Axelrod said he's not a provocative personality. Biden, who focused a portion of his campaign trying to win back working-class white voters who left the Democratic Party for Trump, also inherently does not face the racist attacks aimed at Obama or the sexist ones targeted at Clinton. Much of Trump's campaign's vitriol was directed not at Biden, who sold himself as a middle-of-the-road unifier, but a soon-to-be Vice President Kamala Harris, a woman of color. Harris, the Trump team argued, would be truly in charge, with Biden being a mere empty vessel being used to enact others' radical agendas. Additionally, the Republican efforts to combat Biden have been slowed by the civil war in its own ranks as the party grapples with its direction and Trump's persistent shadow. Some Republicans argue it will simply take time for the GOP to organize against Biden. Given the fact that the honeymoon period that most new presidents enjoy, Biden also has staked a lower profile than Obama, making him a less effective making him a less effective foil in uniting the Republicans. I think that's just what happens with the new president," said Josh Holmes, who's a former aide to Republican Senate leader Moscow Mitch, who spearheaded a move to stymie Obama after the 45th president was inaugurated. 44th president was inaugurated. When you lose a big election, there's sort of a scattering effect. And it wasn't until June or so and the beginnings of the discussion on Obamacare where we really were able to cohesively fight back. Holmes said, "I think by the spring, you're dealing with a much more cohesive Republican Party than you were the first couple of weeks." Republicans believe that there will be opportunities for a better pushback when the White House moves onto a thornier issues like immigration, voting rights legislation, and a potentially massive infrastructure and jobs bill. Many also believe that the ongoing herky-jerky process to reopen schools for in-person learning could end up damaging Biden. All the while, the Biden White House is underscoring its attempts at bipartisanship, putting the Republicans on the defensive for not signing into the broadly popular COVID relief bill. Many of the Republicans who voted against this are outliers, and they're against the grain of what the people in their own districts have supported, Psaki said, and so they may be getting questions about that once relief goes out, and once schools are able to upgrade facilities and benefit from these checks.